All right, welcome back. So now that we've looked at how to upload data to Galaxy and how to run workflows or analyses on that data, let's look at how to build new workflows, which is something that we all might want to do. So we do this under the workflow panel. And as you can see, there's this imported AttackSeek workflow, which we were talking about last time. But now let's go ahead and create a new workflow for our ChIP-seq analysis. So doing so will create us a workflow editor, which we'll go and look at now. And the general gist of the workflow editor is on the left here, similarly to in the Analyze Data pane, we have the tools. But instead of actually sort of launching the tools as soon as we click them here, clicking on any of the tools here in the left-hand panel will actually add them to the workflow editor in the middle of the screen. And once we select those tools in the middle of the screen, on the right-hand side, we'll be able to see the parameters that we use for those workflows, for those specific tools, and we'll be able to edit them here. So for ChIP-seq, let's say we start with raw reads, raw FASTQ files. So I'll go into inputs and select input data set. This is a good way to start. And I'll say that this is a FASTQ. By the way, naming your input data sets is really just for humans. It doesn't enforce that the data set be of a specific file type. So I've got my FASTQ. And then the first thing that I'd like to do is run Bowtie2. Here I can select Bowtie2. It'll load the tool. And the way that I link these up is I click and drag and connect these like so. And here on the right, you can see the parameters that Bowtie2 needs. And since I'm not an expert, I can't say exactly which ones are best, but that's why we have experts like you. But sometimes you'll see some highlighted in red, and these are like definitely requisite parameters that are currently unset. And this specifically for Bowtie2 is the reference genome, which is important. I'm going to click that will set it at runtime. Okay, so now we have our FASTQ file. We're running Bowtie2 on it, which is pretty obvious. And it turns out that our ChIP-seq workflow is actually pretty similar to our AttackSeek workflow. So I'll go here and actually copy and insert all the individual steps from our AttackSeek workflow into our ChIP-seq workflow. So it's obviously quite messy, but if I untangle it here for just a moment, I'll take the output of Bowtie2, pass it into the BAM filter, and this is actually a functional workflow. So as you see, we've got our FASTQ file, we're passing it through Bowtie2, and then we're doing many of the same steps that we did in AttackSeek, including filtering out the mitochondrial reads, sorting the BAM file, calling peaks, and then mapping those peaks to node genes. All right, so now that I have this very robust ChIP-seq pipeline, I'm going to go ahead and save the workflow. And once I've done that, I'll go back to the workflow panel, and I see my lovely ChIP-seq workflow here, and I could run it, but I'm already very confident in it, I guess, and I'm going to actually share it. And what I'd like to do, instead of sharing it with any specific user, I'd like to make the workflow accessible and publish it all at once. And now I can go to this specific link, galaxy.neuralinks.org/user alexlanai/workflow ChIP-seq2. And this is the publicly accessible link to my workflow and details all the different inputs and each of the parameters to each of my tools. This is a URL that I can share with other people to give them information about it. It's also the URL that I can share with other instances of Galaxy if they want to import my workflow but use different galaxies. All right, so that concludes the workflow tutorial, or creating workflow tutorial. What we did is we created a workflow, we imported tools basically, we also imported tools from another workflow, and finally we published our workflow for other researchers to be able to see, such that under the shared data workflows, other researchers can now find the ChIP-seq workflow and import it and use it themselves. All right, thanks very much for listening.